Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Debrief podcast. This is Airman Jantz, joined as always by Colonel Baker and Chief Flores, our 97th Air Mobility Wing Command Team. We have a very special guest this episode, our Wing Chief of Protocol and U.S. Air Force retired Chief Master Sgt. Gail Hargis. Thanks for joining us, Gail.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love this. I'm excited.
But, hey, as always, gentlemen, how are you doing?
I think we're doing great. Chief, we're doing great.
Oh, we're doing great. Extremely well. I think Saturday, me and Colonel Baker had a little offsite. Life's good, but we thought, you know what, let's just make sure we're keeping the trains where we need to go. We went over our lines of effort with the objectives and kind of grading ourselves, really as a command team, see where we're at, and all to help take care of the mission, take care of our airmen and their families, and continue to develop leaders.
Yeah, pretty incredible. We really kind of neck down what's the objectives over the next 6 to 8 months and making sure that we keep focus and keep consistency with what we're trying to get after here and refocusing back on the vision, which I think we've been pretty consistent about overall, but it's always a great opportunity to do that. So we left really excited from that, and we've got the UEI, the Unit Effectiveness Inspection, coming up next week. So that's a big one for the wing. I think we're postured as well as we can be postured. We've had some great conversations with the team about just having our airmen demonstrate their day-to-day mission excellence. And so we're excited about that and the opportunity for that. So I think there's just a lot going on, and we're getting into the holiday season. And we have, great airmen, great civilian airmen, one of them who's joined us today. You're our first civilian airman guest, by the way, which is awesome.
Awesome.
So this is
another first.
Yes, we're breaking ground here. But we always throw it back to Jantz before we get to our guest of honor. So how are you doing, Airman Jantz?
Gentlemen, I'm doing absolutely stellar, great, all of the above. The U.S. men's national team, soccer national team, just made it to the round of 16. Thank the Lord. So I'm absolutely ecstatic this afternoon, and I'm just rolling that over into the podcast right now.
Perfect. Yeah, I can sense it, the energy, and we were watching the game as well, too, in between some of the meetings and events we had going on. But, yeah, it's a great time. Great time for U.S. soccer and USA. So pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
Gail, are you watching the soccer? Are you staying?
No, sir.
No?
I don't know anything about soccer.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, we got you covered. They're doing great.
Okay.
There's a famous ancient saying that says football is life.
Football is life.
Actually, that's from Ted Lasso.
Yeah, football is life.
That's a good intro, Gail. If you really want to get the connection there, start with Ted Lasso.
Yeah, that's great. But hey, if you don't mind, we'll jump right into getting to know our guest here, Gail. If you don't mind, kind of giving us a brief introduction of why you joined the Air Force. First of all, and just kind of the introduction into your career.
Well, over 40 years ago, I was a senior in high school trying to decide what I was going to do with my life, and I happened to see the Aim High commercial on TV, the F-15 taking off. I thought, that's pretty interesting. So I went to see the recruiter, and that's when I decided that I was going to join the Air Force. Plus, my parents were both Army. I had an uncle in the Air Force, another uncle in the Navy, another uncle in the Marines. So keep it in the family, right?
Yeah, military family. That's awesome. We've heard a lot of that through different guests we've had on.
I wasn't a brat, though. I was later after they got out. But, back then, women couldn't have babies and stay in the military. So, yeah.
So was that so I talk a lot about my sister I call her my military hero. She was my inspiration to serve, or one of them. Were your parents or one of your aunts or uncles, I think you mentioned, was it one of them or just a conglomeration of all that?
I think it was just all of them together, just hearing their stories and what they went through. So pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Can you give us a brief overview? It might not be brief because it's a long military career, but can you start off with your military career and what you were doing and where you made it?
Yeah, so I came in right after high school. I was supposed to be computers, but that was a delayed enlistment for like a year and a half, and I didn't want to wait. So I came in open general, and in basic training, you had to put your choices, and believe it or not, fuels was my last choice.
How many was on the list?
10. And because I thought, I don't want to put gas in cars, for a living, but so yeah, and I went to tech school. That was when it was at Chanute. It's now at Shepherd in Texas.
Even better.
Even better,
Mm-hmm.
right? First assignment was Okinawa at Kadena, and I did 3 years there, and I think I refueled just about every plane in the inventory, even Air Force One.
Oh, cool.
Ronald Reagan came over, and I had the opportunity to refuel that aircraft, so that was neat. Had lots of TDYs while I was there. Philippines, Korea, mainland Japan. Met Chris, my hubby, in the Philippines.
Also one of our all-star civilians across
Yes,
Altus
he
Air
is.
Force Base.
He's amazing. We were actually in the Philippines for Cope Thunder, and I got dispatched to refuel his aircraft. He was a crew chief on the F-15s. And when I got there, he just said he had hot brakes. So we just stood there for 30 minutes and chatted until we could refuel, and that's how it started.
Wow.
So, and then we got married 4 months later. Got stationed at McCord. I was the only female at McCord at the time.
In the fuels flight, yeah.
Yeah, in the fuels flight. So that was interesting. We did 4 years there. Then we went to Langley, and that's when I was inspired to become a PME instructor. So I got hired there at the PME Center.
What does PME stand for?
Professional Military Education. And back then it was the NCO preparatory course and the NCO leadership school. So I had the chance to teach both of those, and then we merged and made the Airman Leadership School. So I had a chance to teach that as well. And then Lakenheath decided to replace their F-111s with the F-15s.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris got the assignment to Lakenheath, so that's how we got to England. Stayed there for 7 years. Unfortunately, I had made master, and then right after I sewed it on, I got the phone call. You have to leave fuels. I was very upset.
But I do want to point out, even though at the beginning, when you were rack and stacking that 1 through 10, you're like, I don't want to put gas in cars for a living, as you said it.
Yep, and it turned out to be the best career field ever.
Sounds like the city of Altus right there for you.
I love it. I love it. That's
They had there was an overage of master sergeants in fuels, and I was the number 2 in all of USAFE. Was forced to retrain. So fortunately, the Air Force didn't make me retrain. They let me do another special duty. I got selected to design curriculum for the Senior NCO Academy. They're at Gunter, in the basement of the Senior NCO Academy, with like 10 other master sergeants. So that was fun. I started out on the Senior NCO Academy team, and then they changed and we went towards curriculum. So there was a comm team, communications team, there was a professional arm teams, and then there was the leadership team. I worked on the leadership team, and I did most of all the Airman Leadership School curriculum in the NCO Academy for EPR's evaluation system. So that was fun. I also had the chance to analyze all the test data from all the schools. I think we had 13 NCO academies at the time, 70 Airman Leadership Schools, and of course the one Senior NCO Academy. I did that for 4 years, and then I was fortunate to be hired at the Community College of the Air Force at Maxwell to be the campus relations director. So basically what we did was, we came to places like Altus and inspected their schoolhouses to ensure that the instructors were doing what they needed to do.
For consistency, standardization,
Yep.
up to making sure that they're meeting the intent of the curriculum and all that.
And at that time, we had about 7,700 instructors throughout the Air Force.
Wow, that was kind of the heydays of our Air Force in terms of manning, right? It sounds like.
Yeah, and I happened to make senior while I was at CCAF, and I got a phone call, and I still remember his name, Chief Passion. And the first words out of his mouth, he's like, "First of all, who the heck are you? And why are you not in fuels?" So I explained to him the situation. He's like, "Well, guess what?
You're coming back.
You're coming back, and you're going to Altus."
Yes.
Yeah. And I think I'm the only person who ever got stationed at Altus that never heard one bad thing about this place. No one ever said anything bad about Altus when they found out I was coming here. So, yeah, and then we come here, and actually I came here by myself. Chris got stationed in Korea for a year. So us and the kids came out here, and yeah, the rest is history. Did 6 years, retired, and
made chief out here.
Made chief here.
And didn't you say you were the first? I heard you were the first lady leader and as far as chief.
First chief in the field specialist career field. Female.
Wow.
Yeah. Tremendous feat.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What a path to get there too. Like many,
Yes.
it's not a straight line path.
No.
It takes these very interesting and incredible twists and turns, and then you end up exactly where you're supposed to be. Clearly, I'm curious and we can come back to that. When you were talking about you were inspired to join PME, Professional Military Education, what was it in particular that?
So I was selected to go to the NCO Leadership School at March Air Force Base while I was stationed at McCord. And when I got to the schoolhouse, I found out that we had to do a speech. And I was petrified. And having to give my speech was a really bad day for me. And that kind of inspired me to, I really need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And might as well just jump head in and just become an instructor.
Nice.
Get it over with. So, yeah.
So you took it as a personal challenge, personal growth endeavor.
I always tell people we tend to gravitate to our comfort.
Yeah.
And avoid the things that are hard. That is amazing to be able to do that. And I always tell my airmen, don't fear the reaper. Jump right in and come up with a plan to take that thing down and chip away. And it makes a world of a difference. It really does.
Yeah. When I worked as a curriculum designer, the chief there, by the way, was the very first time I ever had a female boss ever.
Wow.
I was always the highest ranking fuels person, female. So, but she found out I was a math major. So she wanted me to take over the test analysis team because there was a lot of math involved with that. And I was very uncomfortable with that. But that turned out to be probably one of the highlights of my time. So analyzing all the test data from all the schools.
Yeah, that's incredible. We take a look at that part of the journey. I agree with Chief. First of all, making the decision to kind of go all in on that is pretty amazing. Public speaking is scary for a lot of people. It's a real, it really does invoke anxiety, and that's natural. I think we should be more upfront about saying, that's natural and that's normal. And what I've found a lot of times is that sometimes the advice is, well, don't be nervous. That's horrible advice. It doesn't. There's a physiological reaction here, and so there's techniques and things that we can do to help. And I think yours was probably what we would call in some venues and formats exposure to to public speaking and just getting comfortable through that repeated exposure, and then confidence and competence in your craft. And so obviously it served you well, and you've gone through a lot of different versions of leadership components. But that's amazing. I love that part.
Plus, it lends the credibility to PME, like that environment.
Yeah.
Like I've always wanted to be a formal instructor for that reason. That I just think it gives you that certain polish, right? And I think you having credibility lending credibility to the system.
Right.
You knew they were going to be able to shore up that area for you, and it shows. It shows today.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of people that if they listen to this and public speaking is something they struggle with, they will connect with this. They will be inspired by this. It will definitely give them hope and give them tools to help them and just I think inspire them to be bold and be courageous.
And I picked up back to back. You faced an environment that was not comfortable, and it ended up being a strength down the road. And I feel like perhaps that's been a theme in your career. To be able to do that. That's pretty amazing. Also, so the cherry on top when you joined was a aim high commercial with an F-15.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would say you aimed high because you met your future husband during a refueling next to an F-15.
And then went to Lakenheath together.
And I also got an F-15 ride.
Yeah.
While I was at Lakenheath. Or excuse me, Langley. I got a ride.
That's cool.
By a Navy pilot on the exchange program.
All right, you know what? Cut the tape. We're done here.
Okay.
No, but there's an interesting story behind that, though. I was an instructor at the PME Center, and my boss said, "Hey, we want to put you in for a step promotion." I was a staff sergeant at the time. He says, "We want to put you in for a step, but we also want to get you an F-15 ride, but we can't do both. Which one would you like?"
F-15 ride.
I think
that's what you chose. I don't know.
No.
Okay.
I just thought that was interesting that they would ask me that. Would I rather be promoted or get a ride? But, I didn't get the step promotion, so they said, "Okay, now you can have your ride."
Gotcha. Okay.
So it worked out.
It worked out. It did.
What an incredible proposition. Can you imagine us doing that today?
I know.
Well, I think, what do you notice is different between the times, your time of service and today? Anything that stands out to you? I'm sure some of the things are still the same, but
it's so different.
Yeah.
It's the attitudes. Just the way we treat each other. Mm-hmm. Just how we do it now was not how we did it in the 80s and 90s. I've always been a firm believer that it doesn't matter if you're the person that takes the trash out or if you're the wing commander that makes all the decisions. Everyone has value. And I always brought that up in my classes too. But I don't think we really embraced that until recently.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. And maybe, or if we did, institutionally, maybe we didn't show it in the ways that, that can always translate and translate today. But that's a great point. I prescribe personally too, and this is really about Gail, but I do think there is absolutely something to, that helping people understand that they're valuable at every level, no matter their job. And I take it like one step further. I think everybody has to understand from a leader that no task is beneath them. Now, we all understand that at different levels, you can't do every task for every airman at every given time. I think we all fundamentally get that. But I think it's very powerful and very important that they understand and you understand, as whether you're a senior airman, leading and demonstrating to an A1C, or even as a colonel demonstrating to, your CGOs and senior NCOs and NCOs, that, hey, I'm willing to fill a sandbag. I will absolutely do it. If we have got to build a defensive fighting position and this is what we're going to do, I will absolutely do it. And I know that, we all understand that I can't spend every hour of every day doing it. But I'm taking what you said because I really believe in this because it inspires a team and it adds value and people understand they're valuable.
So I steal this from you a lot, but you say you got to walk their walk.
Yeah, walk their walk. That's so true.
And that's true. You never outgrow that. They want to know you're willing to pick up a weapon and get in that foxhole with them. And I think it shows humility and it shows you never get too disconnected from what's happening in the front lines. I think that's important to them when they know you're advocating in the right direction, right? And that's important. Or as a retired chief, you're giving that advice to us in the right direction. I think it's important too.
Yeah.
So
I gotta find this old. There was an article when I was in ROTC. It was part of the curriculum, and you may know this, Gail. It may have been wider than in one of the aerospace studies classes, and the article was called "The Courage of Sam Bird," and it was about this captain in Vietnam who had a platoon that was just dysfunctional as all get out. And what he started doing was exactly that, walking the walk. It was really little things like shining his boots when the folks in the platoon were not doing that, and doing the little things like building out DFPs with them and demonstrating those little actions that over time totally turned around that platoon and that company. I think he was a company commander. And so the article, unfortunately, I think he ended up as a combat casualty and died in combat, but it really did, like the whole company and platoon came around. So we take this so far, but I think Gail hit on something really, really fundamental there. I got to go find that article.
Yeah,
do you remember that? It wasn't anything y'all were working on.
No, I just remember one of John Maxwell's quotes was a good leader knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's awesome.
That's a great one. I'm going to get out my notebook, my podcast notebook, and put that in there. That's really cool.
Does any particular leader stand out to you through your active duty career, or even as a civilian leader that really made a big difference in the way you serve, or even going to making it a career and wanting to make chief?
Yeah. Unfortunately, in the beginning, a lot of my inspiration was from people that I didn't want to be like.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't have any role models. I will say this, though. A lot of my supervisors in fuels took care of me. I will say that. It could have been a lot worse. They just weren't used to having women in the career field. So it could have been worse, but yeah, a lot of mine's drawn from what I did not want to be. But one of my favorite leaders is Chief Master of the Air Force number 5, Gail.
Oh yeah.
And
people like hot fries.
Yeah, I've met with him several times. He was the guest speaker when I made chief. So just a very inspirational person. Yeah, and then of course I have to include Chris.
Yeah.
Chris became a first sergeant when it was a cross train. It was not a special duty. So when it became a special duty, he was grandfathered. So he did it for 11 years, and he was always an inspiration to me.
That's cool. Shout out. So you got a couple of shout outs in there, which is great. So now we know at a minimum we'll at least have one more listener to our podcast. So Chris Hargis he's gonna dial in and check it out. But that's great.
So there's a quote out there that says, people don't quit companies, they quit people. And I'm amazed by your resolve to survive the bad supervisors, because I feel like a lot of our young airmen make decisions, life decisions, career decisions on their experiences with their bad supervisors. But it sounds like, for whatever reason, maybe your upbringing, whatever the case may be, prepared you for those moments, and you were able to have that perspective. And that's not what I want to be like. So
right.
It gives me a point of reference to go away from it and be better. What advice would you give our airmen today that perhaps are experiencing that?
Yeah, I drew a lot of my resolve to, as you put it, to stay in the military, because let me tell you, there were many times I wanted to get out, but anytime I thought I was being treated unfairly, that gave me just the extra motivation to prove them wrong, right? I'm not going to get out because you don't think women should be in fuels. Basically, I'm going to stay here and just rub it in your face. It was my attitude.
Love it. Badass.
In a nice way. But yeah, the advice I'd give airmen today, and I really don't connect well, I think, with this younger generation. I don't know them that well, like I used to. But I would say you got to seek out somebody and say, hey, what should I be doing right now so that I can be a chief 10 years, 15 years from now? What should I be doing right now? What do I need to do right now to be a good leader? They need to seek somebody out.
Yeah, I love that. And then on the flip side of that is, what we want supervisors actively out in that space too. Our frontline supervisors talk about this all the time. And Chief, you got to throw your story out there about the reason when you were going through your reasons for serving and when you finally kind of got there. But in the beginning, is your supervisor who you didn't want to disappoint. You have a much more vibrant way of describing this, but right, that was it. There was a supervisor. Army. Yeah,
Specialist King. So inner city kid, and me. I'm talking about myself, and the core values in the Army back then. That's where I served. Did not matter to me, but meeting a big brother, father figure like Specialist King, that did matter. And just the way he carried himself, he was tough, he was resilient. He could outruck you, outrun you, out tactics you, but he was kind and approachable and considerate, and all those things I needed in my life at that point. And the thought of doing something silly, the look of disappointment in his face, that's what kept me from going down the wrong path. Now the 7 core values, which eventually I got there, and I like to think a lot of our airmen don't join for the core values. Eventually it gets ingrained in them, but until then, they look for those leaders that they want to be like and want to follow and not disappoint. And that's what I hope every airman gets. So I always tell folks the most important leaders in your life should not be me and Colonel Baker. It should be your frontline supervisor. And when 9/11 happened, I really thought, because I was in when 9/11 happened, and I was scared at first, but then I thought, I'm the best trained I can right now, and our unit is super scared away. And if we go to combat, we're not gonna not pass the test because we're not ready for it that moment. So it was an incredible feeling to have in that moment in time.
Yeah, it's a great part of the story, and I like the idea. Gail's advice of, for the young airmen out there, go latch on to somebody, go hitch your wagon, and it takes a little bit of humility, it takes time, it takes effort, but they will steer you right. We have lots of people that are in the supervisory roles they're doing exactly what they should be, and for those that aren't there yet, we're aggressively getting them ready for that and pushing really hard for that.
Yeah, fortunately or unfortunately, I think Gail just signed up for her inbox to grow quite a bit with leadership requests.
I think another piece of advice I would offer is something that a wise chief told me one time. Whatever job you're doing, be good at it. Just be good at it. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Just do what you do and do it good. It gets noticed. That sounds,
that comes up a lot in ALS, and Chief has said exactly that many times, and I try to also push that out and just be good at your damn job. We're talking about unquestionably proficient. Yeah. That is a little bit fancier way of saying just be damn good at your job. It really is. It's part of the wing vision, and that's exactly what we want. We talked about the unit effectiveness inspection, and what do we want? We just want our airmen demonstrating their day-to-day excellence, being good at what they do.
One thing Gail doesn't know, she says she doesn't connect with this generation. I think you connect with them quite a bit.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, the fact that you recognize that we're kinder to each other, kinder, but still, we're still going to go prosecute war. I mean, that's what our business is. But the fact that you recognize that there's compassion there visibly, and we treat each other with visible dignity and respect. She doesn't know this, but when folks get to find out, they get to work with her because she has an assistant in protocol and usually a staff or a senior airman, and they are giddy as all can be to go work with her because they know they're going to be taken care of, and they're working with a retired chief, a wealth of knowledge there. And I don't know if you pick up on that or not, so I think you're a little more connected than you think.
There's a lot of growth. I see a lot of growth in our augmentees to protocol. Absolutely. Definitely. I see that. It's visible.
Chance wants to go there next.
Yeah.
Guys, I love my position at PA. I don't want to leave. And you guys mentioned be good at your job. I love doing my job, and that's the least I can do. I wouldn't turn down a job offer from Gail, though. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Go to school.
Yeah. That's some advice. Third piece of advice. Yeah.
Yep. Go to school.
Whole airman concept right there.
Go to school. Yeah.
Just have that extra experience in your in your bag before you separate. Is that what you're getting at? Go to school while you're in service?
Yes.
Yeah.
When Chris and I were going to school, the online didn't exist. I know I'm really dating myself here, but in fact, he finished his master's degree while he was deployed to Turkey before the online thing started. But yeah, I was always mad at myself for not doing it sooner. Before I had children, right? I was in the Air Force for 12 years before I had our first son. I could have had a doctorate degree by then, right? So yeah, go to school.
Yeah.
You learn so much from other people, probably more from other people than you do your instructor.
It's that thing, Gail, that I've heard put as you will never have more time than you do right now. So that idea that there's trade space somewhere out there in the future usually does not pan out. So I think you're kind of highlighting that, but you did get it done. Not easy.
Gentlemen, Gail, if we can transition into your post-military career, I know there's a lot of time spent there as well. There's probably a lot of lessons we can get into. Can you explain what you've done so far after separating from the Air Force?
So how I got into civil service is kind of a funny story as well. I was at home enjoying my retirement, probably doing laundry or rearranging something.
Putting up lights for the Christmas display.
Right. Chris had already secured his job in LRS, his civil service. And my phone rang, and I picked it up, and all I heard was, "Chief, what you doing?" It was, at the time, Colonel Thomas, now Lieutenant General retired Thomas. And I recognized his voice. I was like, "Sir, I'm just chilling, hanging out, doing my retirement thing." He says, "Why have you not applied for the secretary position at the wing?" Well, you're not going to tell a colonel that it's because you don't want to work there. And I said, "Sir, honestly, I want the inspection job that's being advertised." He's like, "Just come talk to me." So I went in and talked to him, and I was I was firm. I was not going to accept the job. 10 minutes later, I'm walking out, doing the paperwork to become the secretary. So,
wow. Well, General, that's another shout out. General Thomas, we got to get this to him, and then his powers of persuasion are clearly world class. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'm just really grateful to him because it opened up a lot more doors. He wanted somebody that had military background. Mm-hmm. Obviously, a lot of people think that's something a chief shouldn't be doing, but I think that's exactly where I needed to be because he needed someone with my background. I knew all the acronyms. I knew how we were structured. So, yeah. Yeah,
that position leads. I mean, there's no...
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about it. Let's be clear. The wing secretary, I mean, and they do it through a very skilled way that, like, did she just tell me what to do? Yes. But you don't take it that way. So there's a lot of grace. Yeah. It's pretty impressive to watch those positions be very, very effective for commanders.
That's really cool. So that's how you ended up getting connected into civil service.
And then what's funny is civilian personnel said I wasn't qualified for the job.
Of course they did. No, I'm just kidding. CPO.
I had to start out as a trainee, which I thought was funny because I was like, who's going to train me? But it was okay. It all turned out for the best. And then I did that for 7 years. And then under Colonel Carney, now General Carney, I really wanted to do something different.
Mix it up.
Yeah. I really wanted the protocol job because I knew Michelle was leaving. She'd only been here for 18 months. And so I talked to him about that. I was kind of scared, because you don't want to leave your boss, but I really didn't leave him.
7 years isn't a long time in the...
And so I had my whole speech written out how I was going to approach him, what I was going to say. Got into his office, and I think I got 5 words out before he was like, "Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's make you chief protocol." So, yeah.
Master negotiator.
Yeah. So you leveraged General Thomas. You brought that back, whatever that was. So I am going to ask, because this comes up from time to time with folks who think that they're not ready for a job, or maybe they think they're not interested in a job, and they go to the interview. Why did you go to the interview?
Because a colonel told me to. You can leave the Air Force, but the Air Force doesn't leave you. Yeah. I had so much respect for Colonel Thomas, and I thought there was no harm in going in and talking to him. And it's just funny. It just seems like my whole career, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
You find out something and you get upset. Like when I found out I was going to Lakenheath, I think I cried for 2 days straight because my instructor duty wasn't done, and I was enjoying it. But it turned out to be the best thing. Stayed there for 7 years, made 2 ranks. It was incredible.
So. And there was the path that you didn't realize was going to open up for you, the opportunity. Yeah, and the reason I was pulling on that thread a little bit is because I've heard this before, where people particularly in different front office positions, they say, well, I'm not interested, or I don't want to do that job, or that job's not for me. My thing is, if that person or that leader is asking you to interview out of respect for them, the answer that, hey, I'll come interview, and I think if you would have said, hey, I'm not interested, or it's kind of unfair to that person that and respect. So it's another way of looking at it, right? The reason, and you don't know what you don't know, and there's so much that can open up to you. So it's a great. I mean, there's an interview tip and a life tip in what you said. It's kind of a pro tip. Like you may think there's this path, but you just don't know what opportunities are going to open up. And if this person that you respect is asking, then out of respect for them, go give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? And look what came of it. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah,
I love the story.
I always get lucky. So
that's great. I don't know. I think your talents created those opportunities as well, and your body of work.
And luck has been described as a combination of where timing and preparation meet. Yeah. So if you want to look at it that way, maybe we can call you lucky in that context. Okay.
Correct.
One question for you, Gail. With this chief protocol position, I wanted to ask you, you interact with a lot of Air Force leadership, a lot of DVs. What really stands out from your perspective when they're visiting Altus Air Force Base? What can you see from them? What do you get, like, the vibe from them when they are visiting here?
I think every DV that has come through here since I've been chief of protocol has been, it's almost like they're shocked to see how great Altus is, right? They just love coming here, and they talk about Altus the whole time, and the airmen and how the base looks, and it's every DV that's come through here. And we've had a lot.
Yes.
Because we had the KC-46 arrival ceremony a few years ago. We had the chief of staff here, and former chief of staff, the governor. So
business has been good for you.
Business has been great. Yeah.
We do for little old Altus.
Yes.
We do pack one heck of a punch, which makes me really proud. It's an amazing place. I think that's why you get that. We're a tight knit group, and we're on this 8,000 acre air patch, but we generate a hell of a lot of air power. It's incredible. And one of our guiding principles is we treat everybody like 4-star generals. And that's true. And I see that in the way you work your protocol. If they're a guest of the wing or a guest of the base, absolutely, we treat them that way. And we should, because they're a guest.
That's right.
And we show them what we're all about and the way we do business at Altus. And I think that resonates. That's why you see that with our.
Yeah.
I think it resonates with the DV. So I've seen 06 Colonel Div Chiefs come here. We treat them like a 4-star, and they walk away feeling, for one, valued, but also they're more vested in what we're doing here. And then on the other side is the owning group, local group here. Very impressed with the way the wing command team, and really the base at large, treated one of their own when they come here. So really, when it comes to the DV and our own airmen, they really respect that we're executing on our guiding principles here. Yeah. It's really impressive to watch.
Yeah, I would never want a DV leaving here not wanting to come back.
Perfect approach. Yeah. And we do. We get a lot of repeat customers. Gail gets a lot of repeat customers. We get everybody. I love the the folks that come through when they're making a road trip from one coast to the next and they pop in. I think you have a lineup of folks who every year come through at different times, which is really cool. And then everybody from Fisher
retired generals to come here to dove hunt or whatever quail hunt they want to do, see family.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or the Quartz Mountain or the Wichita Mountains.
Yeah.
Advertising a little bit right now.
Yeah. So Gail, did you ever imagine that on this journey that this is how it was gonna play out? That you'd be, making a difference every day, every week, every month, every year?
I remember getting my first ID card in basic training, and I looked at the date and it said 20 September 1986. And I started to cry and I thought, I'm never gonna make it. Of course, you're still in basic training. You're getting yelled at 24/7. I thought, there's no way. And then, 40 years, and I'm still here.
Wow.
And I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah.
I'd do it all over again. And, I kind of felt bad at first because I'm an only child. So, my parents, I wasn't around with my parents, but.
Yeah, one of the challenges, and there's plenty. I mean, in a career that spans 4 decades, there's going to be challenges associated with that too. But I'm sure your parents were super proud of you.
I hope so.
Gail, I've got another question for you. You met Chris pretty early on in your career. How has he helped shape you throughout your career and even into your civilian post-military career?
Well, he has always outranked me, so I was always inspired to get up to his speed, right? So he made below the zone senior airman, so I was like, okay, I want to make below the zone senior airman. He made staff the first time, I didn't.
But you did make below the zone senior airman?
I did.
You matched him on that one? That's good.
Did you take a plane ride or something on that one?
He got the John L. Levitt honor graduate in NCO preparatory school. I got it at leadership school. And then, of course, when he became a shirt, oh my gosh. I just needed him all the time because he always had the answer, right? Like if I was having an issue with somebody in the flight, he always had the answer. I could always go to him. But I got to tell this funny story. So him being a first sergeant, he gets phone calls 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, right? Almost every weekend, depending on what squadron you're in. And when I was at LRS, I decided to take the shirt phone for a weekend. And I heard this phone ringing at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, Chris, your phone's ringing. Get up. And he started laughing. He's like, that's your phone.
Good luck with that. Have fun with that one. That's great. Well, you're going to you probably needed him anyway, so you might as well just get up.
Yeah, and I did. I had to call him anyway. I was like, I don't know what to do.
So cool.
But yeah, he's inspired me to, he's been the first to do everything, so I just kind of followed his lead. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, now y'all still now you've translated that to time at the golf course together.
Yeah.
You do your cruises, and sounds like y'all are, it was a match made in heaven. It's a perfect match.
Yeah, we're lucky that we have the same interests. So we got lucky.
Do you see retirement anywhere in the near future at all? Do you see an end?
There's definitely a retirement because we want to travel, but it's going to be a while.
You're not just saying that because
Nope.
they're here.
Be honest, Gail.
Oh, yeah. One of the virtues of a chief is they speak truth to power.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, we have to get our daughter through medical school. She's a senior at OU, so she'll start medical school. That's 4 years, and as you know, it's not cheap. So we need to get her done before we retire.
That's great. Command team, is there anything else we've got for Gail while we have her on?
I just, Gail, want to, just tell you from me to you, hopefully we give you feedback, at intervals, but we really appreciate you. It's the whole experience. It's everything you bring to the table. And when we talk about, and I know you've heard us say this, but for the audience out there, we may have hit this a few times when we talk about civilian airmen and we talk about how fundamental and how important they are to what we do in terms of depth of expertise, depth of experience, consistency, continuity, those things that really make us a stronger force. I really think you're the epitome of a lot of that. We lean on you for a lot of stuff. And so I just want to say thanks to you for just bringing a incredible perspective and a highly competent capability to our wing. I mean, I just can't imagine how we would function without you. So it's been great. I've loved this podcast, by the way. This one has been, I've had a smile on my face the whole time.
I'm going to leave on with a huge smile walking out of here. We'll last the whole week, but I echo everything Colonel Baker says. The interesting thing, as a command chief, I travel a lot, and my circle of influence now, or people that I talk to a lot, are other command chiefs, and if any of them served at Altus, they asked me a couple questions. How's Charlie? And then how's Gail? She's still there. So she's world renowned. And it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But from my standpoint, I feel weird calling you Gail sometimes because you're a chief. I mean, you might have retired, but you carry yourself like a chief. All the events.
We get to see the uniform come back.
You wear the mess dress. And you
it.
haven't tailored it, and it fits like a glove, which is impressive. And I mean, you put yourself out there to still be all in as an airman. I mean, whether it's running your protocol bit or just being a chief or being entertainment.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome. I mean,
keyboard.
they say, you're going to play the keyboard, drop the mic. We don't need anything else. We know it's going to be a great event with great energy because that's what she brings to the table. But same thing. And we've had a couple closed-door conversations and definitely speak truth to power. And I can count on you as a mentor, which means a lot. Keep us straight. And that's something that we truly relish here.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then we usually flip the script back on our guests and say, do you have any questions for the command team? Or I don't want to rob the host here.
All you, yeah. you know the process. But yeah, Gail, do you have anything for us, for the command team?
Well, I have to bring it back to you guys. We're only as successful as our command teams, right? And I every day feel appreciated. This wing. It was really, really hard to retire 12 years ago. I did not want to, but it was a decision I had to make for the family. So being able to come back civil service and being the chief of protocol, I feel like I'm still serving, right? And it brings me a lot of joy.
For sure.
I love being in the middle of everything. I don't like being in front. You all know that. I'm a behind the scenes kind of person. That's why I like protocol. I'm behind the scenes, and I love helping commanders with their changes of command and their retirement ceremonies. I just love doing all that. So,
and they have gone swimmingly. You and the team just executes. It's amazing.
I really enjoy it.
It's clear. Passion's clear, evident.
Yeah. But
do you have any questions for Jans? Let's flip the script.
Yeah.
One more time.
Gosh, guys.
How'd you get so good at your job? This is like the third time you've interviewed me.
It's simply, hey, it's great leadership.
Every time we meet with Jans, there's more microphones, more laptops.
It gets more tech. It gets more teched up in here. It's
Only
amazing.
one coffee cup.
His coffee
Yeah,
cup.
coffee cup. You change that out. That's number 2.
This is the longest time we've gone without mentioning it. But.
Yeah.
This is turning into the Matrix.
Well, I have one for Jance. So Gail, Chief, talked about the generational connections. Do you see a generational connection there with Gail?
The funny thing is, I find myself as like an older soul compared to I'm a millennial compared to. Thanks, Chief. But I seem to connect a little more with, like, a lot of my friends are in their 30s and 40s. They have kids. They're just a lot older than me, and I seem to connect with them a little more than the generation behind me. So yeah, I see Gail around, and it's an easy conversation. I see people around at all of these events. If I'm covering changes of command, which is like low key one of my favorite seasons of the year, because I love seeing the big smiles on everybody's faces, especially the families. If I see people there and I just know you, I'll have a conversation with you, but I know when I need to buckle it up, and I need to do my job as well. But certainly I have that connection with certainly the older generation, and it's not difficult either. It's not difficult for me to come up with a conversation with them. So
yeah. I see it. I see the connection out there, and I've found that the generational, there's some components to maybe how we communicate, how we use devices, other things. But I really believe fundamentally, if we get generations, name your generation, away from electronic devices when they're not being used to do our jobs, in an environment of shared adversity, we respond and react as a team the same way we always have. Sometimes getting to that can be a little bit of a challenge with modern day distractions, but I do think we're just fine when we can do that. And I think this will be a path for continued connection and thought on that, on how we keep connecting. But that's awesome. So we got quite a spread of experience in here. So
last thing I'll say about Chief is the debrief thread that I pulled is like she always jumped at opportunity, and it was always a phone call away. Apparently, everything that happened was always a phone call.
Yeah.
Not an MPF virtual MPF message or something like that. So I think it goes to show
that's
that
a good point.
People are seeking you out, which is important. I think your body of work creates those opportunities for yourself.
You're here.
One last thing for you, Gail. If you've shouted out a couple people already, but if you want to, this is another opportunity to give any more shout outs to the family, to anybody you'd like to that have made an impact in your life, have really impressed on you.
Well, definitely got a shout out to Aaron. He is a C-17 maintainer here on the A team. Our son, he's 28, and he is a very good bowler. I think most people know that
he's really good bowler. Like, how many 300s, Gail?
Yes, he's up to 32 perfect 300s now.
His goal is 97 300s.
Hey, I'm going to tell him that. Yeah,
that's a good one.
And then he has 4 800 series, and he goes to Tulsa for tournaments in Vegas. So, and definitely a shout out to my med student out there, soon to be med student Melissa, trying to make it through her senior year at OU.
She's got this.
Yeah, and of course Chris, my best half, and our best friends Terry Kratz and Charlene. We've been friends for the last 18 years. So, yeah,
it's great.
Love them all.
Shout out.
That's awesome. But gentlemen, Gail, I think that's a wrap for episode 8. Episode 8 of
Love it.
The Debrief podcast. Command team, as always, we really appreciate your time, Gail. We can't thank you enough for coming on to the Debrief podcast and really sharing a wealth of knowledge and some great lessons with us. We can't thank you enough, from myself, the PA team, the command team, for sure. We really appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun.
Right?
I really
You're glad you
appreciate
did
this.
it now,
Oh,
aren't
yeah.
you?
Yeah, and I'm gonna listen to all of them.
Just like in your your public speaking and PMA experience,
Yep.
like you're glad you did it. Like
Yep.
got it.
Yep.
I think people are surprised how quickly it becomes just a conversation.
Yeah,
That's
it
true.
really is.
But I think we're ruining debrief item for us. We're ruining Jans's exit.
Yes.
you
Okay.
guys are
Thank you,
good.
Jans. You closing out?
And with that, thank you everybody who's listening. That is a wrap to episode 8 of the Debrief podcast. Thanks everybody.
Cheers. That's great.